Grand Rising. Today, we're doing another book review. If I had to just pack up my vehicle and take it off grid because some sort of apocalyptic event was happening, no looking back, right? I would definitely make sure that this book was in the car, even with such a limited storage space. This book is so powerful. I'm going to have to rate this a 10 out of 10. So this book has got a bunch of different chapters and passages, but it's so easy to flip through. You can open to any page and find value in it. You don't need to read it straight through. This book is published by the same publisher as the other book I reviewed, Man's Higher Consciousness by Hilton Hotema by Frontline Publishing, and it is called The Wise Mind of Emperor Haile Selassie the First of Ethiopia. Alright, so this is a compilation of passages from different speeches he gave throughout his life. So the author went ahead and took his speeches and cut out phrases, quotes that were the most powerful, and then organized them like verses, and then gave each section of verses a chapter with a title. So let's look over why this book is really interesting to me and why I think that you should read this. Because for me personally, this is my over breakfast book. So it's so easy for me to just have a smoothie or some fruit in the morning and be able to just hold this book in one hand and read through it rather than scrolling through my phone. First thing in the morning, I'm downloading information and ideas from one of the greatest minds of history. So the chapters are peace, education, religion, character, responsibility, advice to students, work, self-help, development, leadership, justice and equality, unity and brotherhood, self-defense, independence, international relations, United Nations, and our past and future. So Haile Selassie was very focused on speaking and encouraging people and paving the way with the wisdom he'd cultivated to encourage Africa to become independent and Africans to be strong peoples and leaders. And whether or not you're an African, this book can be an extreme value to you because the concepts are universal. So, even if it was an apocalyptic event where I was going off grid, I would still want these principles for building a community, a strong community, and for being a good leader. So I would like to share a few quotes with you, and we'll keep this video short. So I'm going to go first to the chapter called Work. Bear with me as I flip pages here. Alright, so then there's these quotes, and I don't think that they're in any particular order because there's many different speeches that they're taken from, so you can just read any one. There is neither shame nor disgrace in a day's work well and truly done, whatever the task and whatever the rank or status of the worker, the farmer and the laborer who have toiled diligently throughout the day have earned their bread and honest sleep. Money is an instrument, but there is no duty that can be fully accomplished with its mere persuasive power. It is better to till the land rather than to bicker on trivial matters. It is better to exploit effectively a small tract of land rather than proclaim being the owner of vast, idle land. A purely materialistic art would be like a tree which is expected to bear fruit without flowering, sacrificing grace and beauty for mere utility. Your workmanship will be a monument to your name. Unless a man undertakes more than he can possibly do, he will never be able to do all that he can. Man who is by nature selfish must learn that only in serving others can he reach the full nature, or the full stature, or attain the noble destinies for which God created him. To do one's job is one thing, and to be indifferent in general and be critical of the work of others is another matter. The former requires competence, determination, and wisdom, while the latter lacks these qualities. Laziness is the sole breeder of sin, poverty, and discontent. The reward for a job well done comes rather in the inner satisfaction that accompanies the knowledge that the work accomplished represents the best of which we are capable. Progress and work have no boundaries. So now let's head to another chapter, self-help. No person is able to understand and solve one's own problem better than one's self. Let us set our goals too high. Let us demand more of ourselves than we believe we possess. Let's check out another chapter. How about peace, character, education, responsibility? Man, that's tough. Let's do responsibility. I think that's one we could all learn from. Man desires many things, but it is an individual's duty and responsibility to desire the proper things. A noble failure may be more of a value than a petty success. Anyone who makes the wrong choices will be a burden not only to himself, but to future generations. Though life is short, one should live and act in such a way that his achievements will bring him and his country a good name forever. If he does not use his training for worthy ends, he will be an enemy to himself and an obstacle to others. He will indeed be sick while supposedly healthy, and dead while still alive. The obligation to improve oneself does not cease simply because one has a regular job. Simply watching other people's achievements is a characteristic of a lazy man. There is no person in this world who is free from life's responsibility. One who does not contribute to his community and coming generation remains to be a burden to his society and an object of ridicule to outside observers. Advice to students. The opportunity for education is not given for a fashion or a mode. It is given for a purpose, for a task, for a high responsibility, for the benefit of our country and the coming generation. A person who, even while at school, realizes the need of his country and has a proper sense of values and urgency will see what is needed and will be able to fill it. Education is not an end in itself, but an aid to assist you to distinguish between good and evil, between harmful and useful. Education intensifies natural gifts and ability, but mere education, unless founded on a historical and cultural framework, will bear no fruits. Cultural and historical framework. Choose the means by which you can best exercise self-control and self-discipline. In this you are now possessed with the most important weapon of training. Okay, let's check another one. Character. Loyalty inspires understanding, and understanding cooperation. These are the clearest evidences of strength. Learn not only from formal education, but also from a self-discipline that should be worth inheriting. Let us not recoil in hatred against those who, even while protesting their freedom from bias and prejudice, reveal by their actions that the poison of discrimination has left its lasting effects, and by this reaction reveal that we, no less than they, are susceptible to that virus which is called intolerance. That which does not give respite is the feeling of a guilty conscience. There's nothing better one can leave behind than a worthy and memorable name. Where are we to look for our survival, for the answers to the questions which has never been before posed? We must look first to the Almighty God, who has raised man above the animals and endowed him with intelligence and reason. We must put our faith in him that he will not desert us or permit us to destroy humanity which he created in his image. We must look into ourselves, into the depths of our souls. We must become something we have never been, and for which our education and experience and environment have ill prepared us. We must become bigger than we have been, more courageous, greater in spirit, larger in outlook. We must become members of a new race, overcoming petty prejudice, owing our ultimate allegiance not to nations, but to our fellow men within the human community. Unless we find the requisite courage and fixity of purpose to rise above our petty selves, we shall be broken on the wheel of our own invention, slaves of our own despotism. Place principle above all else. Feel the needs of others more than your own. Let's see your peace. Without peace, it is futile to talk of improving man's lot, and without such improvement, the task of guaranteeing peace is rendered manifold more difficult. The assault on these two problems must be made simultaneously, and all of our actions should be taken with an eye to the solution of both. Peace is a day-to-day problem, the product of a multitude of events and judgments. Peace is not an is, it is a becoming. Unless the desire for peace is expressed in terms of concrete achievements and thus gives a sense of assurance and serenity to humanity, mere pious hope constitutes only self-delusion. The essential prerequisite for economic and social contentment is world peace, and without such contentment, the weeds of discontent luxuriate and threats of peace develop. Under development, if the great nations of the world desire our sympathy and support, they should assist us to become economically strong, for only then will our alliance with them be meaningful. He's talking about Africa, or Ethiopia specifically. Disarmament must be achieved, not only because in this fashion will the threat of a world holocaust be dispelled, but equally because only through a drastic reduction in the military budgets of the great powers can the vast resources required to raise all of mankind to the level of free men be freed for these purposes. We have the sacred duty to our children to spare them the sacrifices we have known. Isn't that an intense one? So many people think like, oh, I need my children to like learn what life's like. They have to have the sacrifices that I've gone through. To build a modern state requires the concentrated strength and effort of each one of you. If we do not build the roads and bridges and schools, if we do not plow the fields and till the soil, if we do not carry on the trade and commerce of the nation, to whom shall we look for the accomplishment of these tasks? The wise mind of Emperor Haile Selassie I. Go get this. Read it over breakfast with me. It's available on Amazon. I believe it's about $10. I could be wrong, but the link will be in the description. Much love. Rastafari.